Okay, so continue on with your storm drainage system. So finally, we have your public drainage system lah. So we have your internal system, which is from your roof, down pipe, and to the surrounding piping system. And then when you go towards external, it will be more towards this sort of covered lah. This is a public drainage system lah. Okay, so in a public drainage system, there are actually two types of categories. So there will be a minor system and a major system. So minor system, they are to discharge the runoff to an area or impound, and then major system, they are to discharge it into a stream, channel, pond, lakes, wetland, large pipe, and covered. So they are to discharge a very large amount of downstream, a very large amount of water. Okay, so sorry about that. Construction is going on beside my unit. Okay, so there are two types of system, major and minor. So minor is just to convey runoff, and major is to convey and control the runoff from the minor system to an even larger body of downstream system. So a minor system is just able to is just intended to collect, control, and convey runoff from building infrastructure and utilities in relative to frequent storm event up to 10 years. But for major system is to protect the community for any large and reasonable rare storm event up to 100 years. So as I previously said before, in maybe 10 years, 50 years, 100 years, there'll be a large rare event of storm where you have a very heavy rainfall. So a minor system is just designed up to maybe 10 years of storm level event. So based on 10 years of data of the rainfall, a minor system is designed up to cater up to that amount of level lah. So when you consider major system, when you consider a city planning, and not just a minor system where it's mostly associated with a taman, when you consider it at a major level where you are protecting a community instead of just a landed or gated community, then when you're considering a major system, you have to consider the rainfall data of at least 100 years. So this is so that the drainage system that you design and installed will be able to cater to this unreasonable or a very or rare occurrence of a very high or heavy downpour from the rain. So there's a difference between a major system and a major and minor system lah. So one is just to utilize it up. One is designed up to 10 years. Another is designed up to 100 years. The minor system is to collect and convey the runoff to a discharge area or impound, and major system is to safely convey and control runoff from the minor system, and also any overspill to a larger downstream system or water body. So water body is usually river or sea lah. Okay, so we have different type of drainage system here. So we can have a open drain. So open drain is any type of drain that is not covered lah. So it can be a pipe or box covered. Okay, so this is a box covered. So a box covered is sort of shaped like this, and then it's made out of concrete. So depending on the selection of the drainage system, you'll be actually designing a minor or a major drainage system lah. So there are pros and cons towards the different type of design out there. So usually pipe and box cover is all man-made, and swales is also man-made, but you're actually utilizing nature. So this is a line drain. So a line drain is a man-made structure which is made of concrete lah. So because it's made of concrete, it's very low maintenance, it's very strong, and then it will last for a very long time. So usually if you were to walk around the city, you find that you have a lot of line drain. It can be a box covered, or it can be a U drain, or it can be a cast-in concrete, such of in this case. So it will be expensive to construct at first, but what we love about this sort of drainage is that it has a very low maintenance cost if properly designed. So once we design a line drain, we put it in place, we do not have to do any maintenance on it. So that's why in a city, we have all this sort of we have a lot of line drain implemented all around our city. Okay, so next is a line open drain. So usually you'll find this line open drain at a lot of area lah. So it can be a deep one, or it can be a shallow one. So this is still a line open drain. So even if it's shallow, it's still doing its purpose lah, to convey the rainwater from the surrounding into a more deeper drainage system. So you can also have a covered line open drain. So the idea behind an open drain is that if we do not have any people walking by, or there's no pedestrian or any car nearby, so we can always have an open drain system. But when it comes to covered line drain system, where we have covered on top of our drain, so this is to ensure that we do not fall into it lah, because it's a hazard. So we will always have a covered line drain when people are nearby, or when there's car nearby. So when there are car nearby, we can have a concrete cover, or we can have a steel cover. So covered line drainage system will be in place when people or vehicle are nearby. So this is as a safety reason lah. So we do not want to have any opening in which people are not able to see, or people accidentally fall into it and cause injury. Okay, so next we have swale. So swale is a type of drainage, but instead of using concrete, we are to actually just dig a hole, and we are to have vegetation plant around it. So a swale is a sort of broad and shallow channel designed to convey the runoff at a non-erosive velocity, as well as enhance its water quality through infiltration, sedimentation, and filtration. So a swale is just a hole lah, being dig out and planted with grass. So because this is done this way, we need to ensure that the slope of this swale is not at a very steep angle, because we just want to slowly convey this rainwater when it's present at a slow velocity. So if the velocity is very high in this swale, then it will actually wash away the vegetation and the soil surrounding it lah, which will defeat the purpose of this swale. So because this is made out of grass, it's actually able to trap any material lah in this system. So there's advantages to disadvantage to this. So it's easy to incorporate into the landscaping because it's made of vegetation. It looks good, and then you can remove any urban pollutant. So because there's a lot of grass, so any rubbish will be trapped in the grass. The It's also low capital because we just need to use a machine to dig the hole, and then we are just to plant vegetation on it, grass. But and then but we have maintenance. But we need to maintain this swale lah because it's made of vegetation. But one of the advantages is that we can incorporate it into landscaping management. So uh, here is it can be said as that lah. In Malaysia, we actually do not really fully utilize this sort of feature. What I say is because when you were to start to work particularly in Malaysia, in Asia country, we do not really care so much about all these landscaping or all these architectural finishes. So that's why it doesn't really work lah in Malaysia, because in Malaysia we are more profit orientated. So if you were to design a building, you were to design a condo, you just want it to have to make as much money out of it, or that's why we have so many condo, we have so many office building, we have so many shopping mall in KL. And then if you were to look around, there's nothing that really attracts or make it feel very comfortable lah when you're traveling around KL. So it's more towards like a concrete jungle. So we look left, look to the right, it's all condo, high rise, and shopping mall. There's nothing special about it lah. So in Malaysia, it doesn't really work lah because we are more towards profit orientated. And then if we can, we want to reduce maintenance fee as much as possible. So a swale is not really recommended lah because we do not have this budget to maintain it. But then it's still in here. So if the question come out, you can always use all of this lah in your as an answer. Okay, so there's disadvantage to this swale. So it's not suitable for steep area. So it requires a very large area because of because of the design and how it is. So there's a risk of blockage in connecting pipe and covered. So when you're connecting land, normal soil towards pipe and covered, there's always a risk of blockage. So the blockage can come from any soil or any vegetation or any rubbish that can block the piping work. And then you need sufficient land. So if you do not have sufficient land, it's not suitable to have a swale design. And finally, because this is made out of soil and vegetation, there's always a risk of mosquito problem, insect problem. So that's why we do not, if it's possible, a swale is not very recommended to be installed. That's why we always go for line drain. So it's easy, simple, although it costs a bit more expensive to install, but you won't find much problem as compared to this. And then we have our pipe drain. So pipe drain is just to convey any runoff into a bigger containment on-site detention area or into the lake lah. So pipe drain is usually underground and covered. So you can find a covered, it can be a steel covered or a concrete covered. So in this case here in the picture, we have a steel covered. And then at the end of it, we have a covered. So a covered is a relative short length of conduit used to transport stormwater through an embankment. So at the end of here, to transport a very large amount of stormwater, we have this covered. So covered is a major component lah, and an outlet for a stormwater drainage system. So this is usually located at the end of a stormwater system lah, stormwater drainage system. So a picture of how a covered will look like. You can have it here. So maybe if we have a road going through a river, so we can install a covered here to allow the river to still flow through, but we can safely transport ourselves through this river. So this is a function of a covered lah, a component covered lah. Okay, so and then besides that, we have this engineering channel. So this drainage system is designed and built to resemble natural stream. If you were to have a flat lay here without this small drainage system, if you were to only have a very small amount of rainwater, it will not flow. So that's why this engineering channel is designed in such a way that during high tides or during a season where there's a lot of very high rain, where the drain can be filled up to here, this level, it will still be able to function. And then when there's no rain, there will be this small little channel here, which can cater to the small amount of rainwater. So its design is done in such a way that in major and minor drainage, this system is able to effectively drain out the water. So usually you'll find this in a public drain system at a very, very large scale. So you won't be seeing much of this because this one it will be quite big and deep, and then there will be a small channel to allow the rainwater to during the off season to flow out. So this one will usually be, you have to go to KL Central you might be able to see this sort of channel. I think the picture here is not very clear. Let me search and see. Okay, so never mind. Let's see, maybe next lesson I can show you the picture. Okay, so finally we have the detention pond So like I mentioned just now, the on-site detention. So in a taman or in a community, instead of having all the water in that area being able to directly flow out the rainwater into the public system, we want to have a detention pond. So this is to ensure that the water in that particular area, public area, all of it is not being flow out into the public system and increasing the load on it So that's why a detention system is there to control the amount of outflow from overloading the public system. So the pond reduces flood peak discharge downstream by temporarily storing and gradually releasing using control outlet. So this control outlet is usually just a pipe at a specific size to ensure that any rainwater is not just flowing out to the public system at once. So the pond can be developed as dry or wet type. So what this means is that dry type is a pond that if there's no rain, it will stay dry and if it's a wet type, then there's actually a permanent water level because the outlet is at a higher level as compared to the bottom level of this detention pond. So if it's possible, we want to have a dry type lah, because if we have a wet type and we do not do anything to it, you will have the problem like the swale, where because there's ponding water, there's no fishes inside it. If there's no maintenance done towards it, then it will become a breeding ground for mosquito, which is a bad thing lah in Malaysia. So there's this picture, it's not very clear. So this is how it look like lah as a detention pond. It can come in various shape and sizes. So here in this picture, the detention pond is over here. So there will be pipe underneath to let out all this water from the pond into the public drainage system. So the surrounding area, all the rainwater will be directed into this pond, and then there will be an outlet pipe to allow this water to drain out to a level which is at a safe level lah. Okay, so this is it lah for your topic 6, storm water drainage.